Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast special edition show, previewing and predicting how the 2021 NFL Draft will go. I'm going to go through team needs in the first part. The second part of the show, I'm going to go over my top 50 draft board and do player comparisons and teams that would be the best fits. Part 3 will be a little bit of gambling and where some value lies on some props. And the last part will be bold predictions for every team in the draft. All right, let's kick it off with team needs as we head into Thursday's draft. The Arizona Cardinals, they need some help in the secondary, so cornerback is a need. Patrick Peterson left. Tight end, they could use an upgrade over Max Williams. Defensive tackle, there's some guys that I don't really love on the interior on the pass rush for the Cardinals. And wide receiver, I think that they could use another wideout with Larry Fitzgerald probably not coming back. And then another need, I think that they could use some help on the offensive line, particularly tackle with the retirement of Marcus Gilbert, who they brought in as a free agent a couple of years ago from the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Atlanta Falcons, pretty much all their needs rely on the defensive side of the ball, cornerback, safety, and then on the edge of the pass rush. The case for the defensive backs, their defensive backs always get hurt. It feels like every year, like Keanu Neal's hurt. Some of their other guys that they had in the past are now gone. Desmond Trufant, obviously, among those. So they need to replace what they had in that Super Bowl run. But quite frankly, what this team should do is trade back from the 4th spot and gain a lot of assets for the future and maybe perhaps draft a quarterback in one of these later rounds to see if that guy could be the long-term replacement for Matt Ryan. So maybe a quarterback for the later round, not necessarily the first round. And I think that pass rush is a need for like a second or the third round. Baltimore. I think they need another wide receiver. I don't think Sammy Watkins is a number 1 guy. To me, he's a 3 at worst, maybe a number 2 at best. So I make him a 2.5 type of receiver. Marquise Brown, to me, is a 1.5. He never really showed elite, like Julio Jones in his prime, Calvin Johnson in his prime stuff. Or even like somebody like an Odell Beckham or an Antonio Brown when Antonio Brown was on the Steelers. So I think that Baltimore could use some help at wide receiver, particularly somebody that can complement Hollywood Brown. Offensive tackle, obviously, with the trading of Orlando Brown, they have a need there now. And then on the pass rush, they lost Matt Judon and Yannick Ngakoue, so they can use help there as well. Buffalo, they don't have many needs. In the interior of their defensive line, I think could use some help. Ed Oliver, somebody that was a first-round pick a couple years ago, never really has put it together yet. And then they can use somebody in the secondary to go with Trey White and Micah Hyde. Carolina, cornerback. Obviously, they lost some players in the offseason in their secondary that they have to replace. Wide receiver, they really don't have that true threat guy. They have some 1.5s like Hollywood Brown types and DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, to me, is more of a 2. And that's a sneaky subplot of the Sam Darnold trade, that he's reunited with Robbie Anderson. And then tight end, Ian Thomas isn't the answer, and they really haven't had a good tight end since Greg Olsen in his prime. The Chicago Bears, quarterback's the obvious need. Andy Dalton's not the answer long term. Are they like a sneaky candidate to trade up for a Mac Jones or a Trey Lance or Justin Fields potentially? Or will they take like a Davis Mills or a Kyle Trask on day 2 or 3 in the draft? Wide receiver, they need somebody to go along with Allen Robinson. Offensive tackle, they have a lot of holes on the offensive line. They need interior and exterior. Kyle Long's gone. He's been gone a couple years now. And their line just stinks. Their line is arguably a bigger weakness than Andy Dalton, quite frankly. And cornerback, which obviously the loss of Kyle Fuller, they have to replace that production. The Cincinnati Bengals, they need help on both ends of their offensive line, both the interior and the exterior. They need somebody to go with former first-rounder Jonah Williams, and they need some help on the inside as well. Wide receiver, A.J. Green's gone. He's never was the same guy for a couple of years. They have T. Higgins, but I don't think he's a super stud like A.J. Green was in his prime. And defensive end, like edge rusher. Obviously, Geno Atkins isn't getting any younger. And same for Carlos Dunlap. Both those guys are gone, or one of them's gone. Let's see here. Yeah, both those guys are gone. I forgot one of those guys was traded and the other was a free agent. So neither Geno Atkins or oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Geno Atkins ain't walking through that door, and they badly need help on that pass rush. Carlos Dunlap, that's what I was thinking of. The Cleveland Browns, they could use another pass rusher. Jadeveon Clowney and his health is a reason why for me. But the interior, I think, is where they could use more help rather than the exterior. Although getting a guy in the exterior would be wise considering Clowney's health. And then they need some help in the linebacking portion of their front seven as well. Dallas, their secondary in a major way needs help. Safety and corner. They need to replace the production that Byron Jones gave them before he signed the big deal at Miami. They could use help at the safety position as well. HaHa Clinton Dix is gone. Pass rush, they need somebody to go with DeMarcus Lawrence in their front seven. And tight end, obviously Dalton Schultz suffered that gruesome injury last year. They have some guys that have shown big production, but Kyle Pitts in that offense would be tremendous. And even the kid from Penn State, which I think is a more realistic later-round pick for Dallas than trading up for Kyle Pitts, which I don't think they should do. To me, they should focus on defense in the first round. Denver, I have quarterback written down. Drew Lock really hasn't proven much yet, and I think he's the least of the proven guys from the draft from 2 years ago. I'd say Daniel Jones has probably shown more than Drew Lock, although Drew Lock has had a better team around him than Daniel Jones has. Although Jones's team obviously wasn't that bad last year, almost winning the NFC East. But that division, like I said, was terrible last year. And Drew Lock, I don't think he's that awful. But they need to draft somebody, I think, to give him some competition. If not, then maybe they trade for Teddy Bridgewater. Safety. They can use some help in their secondary and right down cornerback as well. They have some good guys in their secondary, Bryce Callahan, Justin Simmons, but I think they need some more depth there. Obviously, they lost some guys in free agency over the past couple of years as well. Detroit has a lot of needs. Wide receiver, they lost Kenny Golladay. Cornerback, they need some help there, and that's safety. Linebacker, they don't have any good linebackers. The whole front seven, pretty much, defensive end and defensive tackle, and both the interior and the exterior of their offensive line. They're pretty much on it. The only positions that I feel confident about Detroit, quarterback, Jared Goff, for now. Even a quarterback from the future would be nice for Detroit, but if I'm Detroit, I wait till 2022 or 23 to address that situation, depending on how this year goes for Detroit and Jared Goff. And then tight end, obviously, they have T.J. Hawkinson. And running backs, they have a couple led by DeAndre Swift. So every other position, they really need help. And then obviously, I talked about the secondary. They drafted that kid from Ohio State, 3rd overall. And he really wasn't great as a rookie last year. They need him to break out next year. Green Bay, wide receiver. The draft pick of Jordan Love, to me, will always go down as a huge question, unless Jordan Love becomes a stud. Picking a wide receiver like T. Higgins could have helped the Packers last year. A couple of other guys, Chase Claypool, just to name a couple, would have helped Green Bay last year. Cornerback, they need somebody to go with Jair Alexander. And then also they can use some help with with linebackers as well. Houston, what a mess. Oh my God. Quarterback, assuming they trade Watson eventually. Or what if Watson gets suspended? There's still that possibility out there that he's suspended because of the off-field stuff. But they need a quarterback in the future, whether that's or just somebody that they could try out for now in case if he ain't it, then they could move on. Like somebody like a Kyle Trask or Davis Mills. Indianapolis, we'll get to them in a second. Houston also needs help on the pass rush. They don't have J.J. Watt anymore, so they need help there, both the tackle and the end spot. And then wide receiver, obviously they lost Will Fuller. Regardless of who's a quarterback, they need help at wide receiver. The Colts, they need offensive line help, obviously. Anthony Costanza retires, they need a tackle. Defensive end, they need somebody to go with DeForest Buckner on that defensive line, in particular a guy that can get sacks. And then a wide receiver to go with T.Y. Hilton and Michael Pittman in that crew is Carson Wentz could use some more weapons. Jacksonville, a quarterback. That's going to be Trevor Lawrence, probably. Almost definitely. Safety, they need help there, for sure. Tight end, they can use an upgrade at that position. They need help on the line, whether it's exterior, interior. Exterior, to me, is, I think, where they could use some more help. And then wide receiver, they had guys that showed flashes last year, but they could use some more, like Rondell Moore at pick 25, would not stun me. Kansas City, the interior of their offensive line could use some help. Obviously, they lost their 2 tackles, but they brought in Orlando Brown, which is good. And then they have the guy coming back who opted out last year and blanking on his name. But they could use some help on the interior of their offensive line. And then a pass rusher to go with Chris Jones in that front 7. Las Vegas Raiders, secondary, both positions, corner and safety. Obviously, they really couldn't stop anybody last year. Couldn't stop anybody since Gruden came back. Both the interior and the exterior of their offensive lines, they got rid of a lot of players in the offseason. And then linebacker. They signed some guys as free agents. Some of them have worked out, others have not, but they could use some youth. Like with the outside edge position. The Chargers. They badly need a tackle to help protect Justin Herbert. They have some good linemen, but they could use another tackle. Corner, they need somebody to go with Casey Hayward in that secondary. And then a tight end, they need to replace Hunter Henry. The Rams, they could use a linebacker. That aging unit needs some youth. A center. that would be nice if they got some use on the middle of the offensive line. And then cornerback, they need somebody to go Jalen Ramsey in that secondary. Miami. The Dolphins could use both tackles and interior on the offensive line. Obviously, they traded Eric Fowlers today to the Washington Professional Football Team. So that gives Washington a versatile offensive lineman who they had, and then Miami signed him, and then Washington just reacquired him. But now that opens up another hole for Miami, so they can use two linemen. Defensive tackle and defensive end, both. They need a pass rush. They have a good secondary, though. That's the strength of their defense. They need a wide receiver to go with Devontae Parker. And then a running back that could really, preferably for them, would be a home run hitter. But they could use the dog, 3-down back, like a Mark Ingram type of guy that I'm eventually going to get to. Minnesota, defensive end, obviously, uncertainty with Danielle Hunter. Defensive tackle, they need to help replace Linval Joseph, although they did sign former Giant Dalvin Tomlinson. Both the exterior and the interior on their offensive line, their offensive line really hasn't been good the last couple years. They drafted Ezra Cleveland last year, but he really hasn't shown much. And then at safety, need somebody to go with Anthony Harris. New England, a quarterback for the future. I know Cam's going to be the starter this year, but they need somebody to be the quarterback of the future. Wide receiver, that's like the one area of need they addressed, but they didn't sign like the star. Obviously, they got rid of Julian Edelman, who retired. So that's sad. So they, I think, got to get another receiver after whiffing on some picks the last couple of years. And then cornerback, they need some help in the secondary to go with Stephon Gilmore. New Orleans, cornerback. Also, they need help there along to go with Marshawn Lattimore. Wide receiver, they lose Emmanuel Sanders. So they need somebody to go with Michael Thomas. Linebacker, that's, I think, their weakest unit. Quarterback, this is an interesting one. Maybe they're the secret candidate to trade up for like a Fields or a Lance or a Jones, but I doubt it. But Taysom Hill really hasn't shown anything in the NFL to prove himself. And Jameis Winston, to me, is just a veteran that has potential but never really put it all together. The Giants, they need a corner to go with James Bradbury because outside of Bradbury, their corners weren't good last year. The interior of their offensive line, they're getting Nate Solder back. Maybe he bounces back. If not, then they also would need a tackle. But they drafted Andrew Thomas last year, somebody that got better as the year went on. But like Will Hernandez is going to be a free agent in not the distant future. And then they drafted Shane Lemieux out of Oregon last year, but to me he's more of a depth guy. Defensive end, they could use a defensive end outside linebacker, the 3-4 type of player that they could potentially use. Leonard Williams they use as a tackle. So they could use a defensive end. And then linebacker, they could use somebody that could help guard tight ends because tight ends have had havoc against the Giants' defenses over the last couple of years. The Jets, cornerback also, obviously their secondary was bad last year after they got rid of Jamal Adams. Defensive end, they need pass rushers in the worst way possible. Linebackers, they need somebody to go with C.J. Mosley in that unit. And then the interior of the offensive line. They have Mekhi Becton. They could use a tackle too. But I think their interior is weaker than their exterior. Philadelphia quarterback. I don't think quarterback is their biggest need, but they could use somebody to kind of give Jalen Hurts some competition. Wide receiver, they need that in the worst way. They need the home run hitter, and that would only help Jalen Hurts' development. Cornerback, obviously they lose Ronald Darby, so they need help there. And linebacker, they need some help there as well. Pittsburgh, both the interior and exterior of their offensive lines. Obviously, Alejandro Villanueva is still a free agent. They lost some guys over the years in free agency, so they could use some youth on that unit. And then the quarterback of the future, I don't think it's Dwayne Haskins. He really is one of the biggest busts over the last 10 years that I can remember. And I don't think he'll be the long-term guy for them after Roethlisberger. So maybe they're like a Kyle Trask or a Davis Mills type of team. Or Kellen Mond, but I don't really love Kellen Mond. To me, he's a day 3 guy rather than a day 2 guy. And they could also use a corner. They could use more depth there as well. And then running back, obviously, they lost James Conner. So they need to replace that production. San Francisco. They can use a corner. Richard Sherman not getting any younger. A safety, obviously, they could use help there as well. Wide receiver, the kid out of Arizona State that they drafted last year, is he the guy for the future? He showed flashes, but I'm not totally convinced. And then obviously I have quarterback with an asterisk because it's inevitable that they're taking a quarterback third. It's a question of which one. Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or Mac Jones. Seattle. They need help with both the interior and the exterior of their offensive lines. Their bugaboo over the past couple years has been failing to protect Russell Wilson. And both the exterior and the interior of their defensive lines as well. Because they haven't been producing sacks either. Tampa Bay, obviously the most talented and deepest roster in the league. These are more future needs than present needs. Both the interior and the exterior of their defensive line, obviously, James Sagier, Pierre-Paul, Ndamukong Suh, both aging guys. And the interior and exterior of the offensive line, there's never... you're never wrong with going for offensive or defensive line depth, in particular in the offensive side. Tennessee, wide receiver, they need to replace Corey Davis. Cornerback, they need to replace Adoree Jackson. And offensive tackle, after whiffing on the first-round pick last year, is Isaiah Wilson. And they also can use a defensive end to go with new free agent pickup Bud Dupree. And last but not least, the Washington professional football team, wide receiver, they don't have a proven guy other than Terry McLaurin. And McLaurin to me is a 1.5. A tight end, they could use an upgrade at that position over Logan Thomas. Quarterback for the future. We don't know who that could be. Linebacker, they can use some depth there. Ryan Kerrigan's not getting any younger. And then I have offensive tackle written down here. But the question is, do they play Eric Flowers at guard, where he succeeded with both Washington and the Dolphins? Or do they put him back at tackle, where he failed miserably with the Giants? So I have offensive tackle written down here for Washington. But I would draft one because Eric Flowers is not Trent Williams. They need that guy to replace him, whether it's somebody like him or a poor man's version of him. All right, next up, my top 50 on my draft board with comparisons and best fits. First up, Trevor Lawrence, quarterback, Clemson. My comparison is Peyton Manning. I think he's the best quarterback to be drafted since Peyton. He's somebody that really has that demeanor of Peyton, the cleanness of Peyton, and he's just special. And you've been hearing about this guy for years, like Peyton Manning. And obviously the best fit's Jacksonville. They need a quarterback. They have the coach there, Urban Meyer. Obviously, Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence have, I believe, went head-to-head, if I'm not mistaken. If that holds true. If they did, that'd be a funny story or subplot. Obviously, he'd fit anywhere, really, that needed a quarterback. Obviously, Jacksonville's the best fit because of the situation and the need. Obviously, if he was on San Francisco, New England, Denver, those teams automatically become special for the future. Kyle Pitts, tight end Florida, is my number 2 player. My comparison is Rob Gronkowski. I think he's electric, and he will be unguardable on the next level. I think his best fit's Atlanta, assuming that they are in this quote-unquote win-now mentality. This is reminiscent to me of when the Giants took Saquon Barkley at 2, 3 years ago, which a lot of people think that they were going to regret, which you could argue turned out to be true because they picked him thinking that they had one last hurrah with Eli Manning, not as a building block for the future, but it turned out that Barkley was the latter, or turned into the latter. Other fits for Pitts, Miami. I think he and Mike Gesicki would be a nice combo together. Dallas, obviously, with that offense, oh my God. Philadelphia, but they still have Zach Ertz on their roster, and Dallas Goedert. Washington would be nice. Another team that you can't rule out here is the Bengals. Obviously, if he's still on the board, they got to consider him, right? They'd be a perfect weapon for Joe Burrow. Number 3, Penei Sewell, offensive tackle, Oregon. My conference, Tyron Smith, because of his instincts like Smith's. I think the best fit Cincinnati. They have the big need on the line to protect their young franchise quarterback. Other fits, Miami. Chargers. Obviously, that would be a trade up. Any random team that I threw out that you'd be surprised by is obviously a potential trade up thought or a drop thought, an unexpected drop thought for whatever reason. Number 4, Jamar Chase, wide receiver, LSU. My conference, Calvin Johnson. Best fit, the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins need some electricity to their offense. And for Tua Tagovailoa to have a weapon. I think Chase would also fit with Detroit. I think he would fit well with Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, obviously. No chance Atlanta takes him at 4. And Carolina, I think, would be an interesting fit if he were to fall that far. Devontae Smith, wide receiver, Alabama, is my number 5 player. My conference, Julio Jones, because of his game instincts and his ability to be open, like Julio was in his prime. I think the best fit's the Philadelphia Eagles. They need that type of player offensively. And then, obviously, Smith would be reunited with his former quarterback, Jalen Hurts, in Philadelphia. I think the Giants are another interesting fit. Obviously, him and Kenny Galladay, that would be as good as a duo you could have in the NFL. Miami, reunited with Tua. There's some others, obviously. Cincinnati, but I don't know if they'll take him at 5. That'd be weird. Carolina, Detroit even. Denver. No, I'm just kidding. Not Denver. That'd be weird because they have 3 good receivers already in Cortland Sutton, KJ Hamler, and Jerry Jeudy. But yeah, that'd be stupid of them to take another receiver. And same for Dallas, arguably, too. But it wouldn't be stupid if Dallas took Pitts in a trade-up scenario. Number 6, Justin Fields, quarterback, Ohio State. My conference, Russell Wilson. He has, to me, a lot of instincts of Wilson. Best fit, the 49ers. I think that the 49ers are close to winning. Some people feel like Jimmy Garoppolo held them back. I am not one of them because obviously that team was literally a quarter away from winning the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo, so it's not fair to Jimmy Garoppolo. But I know why the 49ers want to take a quarterback. It's because Garoppolo's been very injury-prone over the last couple years. It's not because of his play. It's because he's always hurt. So Justin Fields on San Francisco, I think, would be a fantastic fit. New England, Denver also would be great fits. I don't love the idea of him on Washington. The Bears would be interesting. Him and Allen Robinson would be a fun match. Number 7, Micah Parsons, outside linebacker, Penn State. My comparison for him is Von Miller because of his versatility. And I know he has character issues, but I love Micah Parsons. He's special. I think his best fit's New England. I like the idea of him and Bill Belichick's defense. I think that could straighten him out a little bit as a person because that's what Bill Belichick's really known well for doing, straightening guys out, even if it's for a short period of time. Other fits, the New York Giants, I think, would be a great fit for Parsons. The New York Jets, if he were to fall that far. Jacksonville. I don't see Dallas taking him at 10. That'd be weird. Although him and Jalen Smith, I think, would be good together. Washington, Philadelphia, Miami at 18, I think would be a really good fit. Arizona, him and Isaiah Simmons would be fun too. But there's a couple teams. Pittsburgh, but I don't think he'd fall that far. Him and TJ Watt, oof. 8, Jalen Waddle. Wide receiver, Alabama. My conference, Odell Beckham Jr. From a production and way he produces on the field standpoint, not off the field, obviously. It's because of his speed and electricity is why I compare him to Odell. I think Waddle's best fits Detroit. They need somebody young and exciting like Waddle. That's why I like that fit so much. I think the Giants and the Eagles would also be good fits. If he were to follow Washington somehow, I think that would be good, although Washington training up, I think, would be the more likely thing. I like the idea of Waddle in Washington. I think that'd be a good fit. Carolina would be a good fit. Even the Chargers at 13, I think, would be a nice fit for Jalen Waddle. Him and Keenan Allen together with Justin Herbert. Number 9, Rashawn Slater. Offensive tackle, Northwestern. My comp for him is Lane Johnson because of his versatility. So I really, really like that fit with him and the team I put him down for, the New York Football Giants. To me, he just feels like a Gettleman guy and a Judge guy. Versatile. I know the Giants like versatile players. And they could just plug in Slater anywhere, whether it's in the interior or the exterior. Him and Andrew Thomas as your tackles of the future, sign me up. I think Slater would also fit well in Detroit, Carolina. Don't sleep on the idea of the Cowboys potentially taking him at 10 if he's there, because obviously Tyron Smith's not getting any younger. Philadelphia can't be ruled out for Slater as well. Chargers if he falls that far, which I doubt. Number Number 10, I have Patrick Surtain, the second cornerback, Alabama. My conference, Patrick Peterson. I just like how Surtain is just very, very clean, and that was Patrick Peterson in his prime. Best fit's obviously Dallas. There's a lot of people saying out there that that's a lock, that he's going to end up on the Cowboys. I'm not buying that completely because you never know with these kinds of things when it comes to the draft. So I really like the idea of Surtain in Dallas. Him and his former teammate Trayvon Diggs in that secondary would be kind of neat. Philly and the Giants, I think, are really good fits for Surtain as well. There's some other teams that I like for him as a possibility too. Carolina, Denver, even. Chargers if he drops. Number 11, J.C. Horn, cornerback, South Carolina. I think the most underrated big-time player in the draft. I love J.C. Horn. My comp for him is Trey White of the Bills because of the SEC comps and doing great against big-time competition. I think Horn's best fit's the Panthers. I like the idea of him staying in the Carolinas. I think he'd be really good there. Dallas and the Giants and the Eagles, I think, are really good fits for Horn. Same for the Chargers, same for Denver. It's pretty much the same teams I mentioned for Surtain. And if one of these guys were to fall to Arizona, obviously you can't rule them out as well. And I wouldn't even rule out New England for a corner, but not one of these two. I think these two will be gone by the time New England hits at 15. Number 12, Zach Wilson, BYU, quarterback. My comp is Josh Allen because of his accuracy and his demeanor. I think the best fit's the Jets, obviously. They're probably going to take him at 2. Mike LaFleur, new offensive coordinator. I think him and Zach Wilson would work really well together. Number 13, Christian Darrisaw, offensive tackle, Virginia Tech. My comp for him is Orlando Brown. Just because of his presence and knowing what to do and stuff. And my comp for Darrisaw, like I said, is Orlando Brown. Best fit, I'm going to say the Chargers. I like Darrisaw protecting Justin Herbert. That'd be a good fit. If he were to follow Miami at 18, that'd be wild. Wouldn't even rule out New England for Darrisaw. New England likes to pick for depth sometimes, and you wouldn't expect it. Maybe the Giants or somebody overdraft at 11 or the Eagles at 12. Maybe Dallas trade down potentially. 14, Caleb Farley, cornerback, Virginia Tech. This is someone that people are starting to speculate that might drop out of the first round. My comp for him is Jimmy Smith. Best fit, I'm going to say Arizona. I like him on the Cardinals and the Cliff Kingsbury and on that team, replacing Patrick Peterson. I think the Bears would be good for Farley. If he falls deep into the first round, Buffalo, Green Bay, even the Chiefs would be nice fits. Ravens. 15, Christian Barmore, defensive tackle, Alabama. My comp for him is Linval Joseph because of his presence in the interior of a defensive line. I think his best fit's the Browns. I think that Barmore is the type of guy that the Browns need in their pass rush. Vikings, I think, would be a fit to replace Joseph. So that'd be somewhat interesting. Some other teams, maybe Tampa, if he falls that far. Dolphins. Number 16, Mac Jones, quarterback, Alabama. My comp for him is Joe Burrow, but like a poor man's Joe Burrow. Because of the career year he had for Alabama, like how Burrow had with LSU. Although Burrow, I think, is better than Mac Jones, so that's why I call Mac Jones a poor man's Joe Burrow. I think best fits the Patriots because of the Saban-Belichick connection. I like the idea of him with Belichick a lot on that team. I think that the Bears would be an interesting fit, and same for Washington and Denver. 17, Trey Lance, quarterback, North Dakota State. My comp is Carson Wentz. I don't know if it's just the school, but it's also because of the unknown factor. And I think the best fit for Lance is Washington. I like the idea of him on Washington. It's just a goofy team. Learning from Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is a teacher of the game at this point in his career. I think will if Tua improves, maybe you'll see or hear from him about Ryan Fitzpatrick being this mentor. So I kind of like that for Trey Lance. And other fits, New England I like for him. Denver would be interesting. Atlanta at 4 would be crazy. I think the Falcons would be crazy to take him at 4. That's just me. If you stay at 4, take, I guess, Pitts or trade down even. 18, Elijah Vera Tucker. Offensive lineman, USC. My comp from is Kelechi Osemele, the former Raider. And my favorite fit for Vera Tucker is the Bears because they need both positions on the line, and Vera Tucker's versatile. I think the Chargers would be a good fit. Jets, Vikings, Cardinals. Maybe a trade back candidate in Dallas or the Giants even. Number 19, Jalen Phillips, defensive end, Miami. Phillips, my comp from is Cam Jordan of the Saints. Someone that is super underrated, I think. I think that a fit for Phillips would be the Dolphins. I just think that a homecoming would be really neat for Phillips and the Dolphins. Number 20, Azeez Ojulari, the defensive end from Georgia. My comp for him is Yannick Ngakoue. I just think that they have similar demeanors. I think the Titans would be a great fit for Ojulari. I like him and Bud Dupree together. Other fits, the Jets. If Ojulari somehow fell into the second round or if the team traded up, and I think Seattle would be interesting for Ojulari too. 21, Alex Leatherwood, offensive tackle, Alabama. My comp from is Russell Okung. Best fit, I think, is the Ravens because of the loss of Orlando Brown. I think Leatherwood would be tremendous there. Other possible fits, some trade down candidates in the Giants, Dallas, Chargers potentially. I think that the Eagles would be a nice fit for Leatherwood. I like Washington for him too. Bears, Colts. 22, Travis Etienne, running back, Clemson. My comp for him is Clyde Edwards-Helaire because of, obviously, he was a rookie last year and came out as a home run hitter for the Chiefs. I think the best fit for Etienne is the Jets because I think that if they take Zach Wilson, which they probably will, I think him and Etienne would work really well together. So I think that'd be a good fit. Dolphins would be interesting. New England would be quite interesting too. It's funny that I'm saying the AFC East teams, even the Bills for that matter. The Bucs I think would be a great fit for Etienne. Eagles in the second round maybe. 23, Greg Newsome, cornerback, Northwestern. My comp from is Jair Alexander. Best fit, I'd say the Bears. Other fits, Green Bay, New Orleans, Ravens. 24, Kwity Paye, defensive end, Michigan. My comp from is Justin Tuck. Best fit, the Vikings. I just think that that's just a really good fit. They need reinforcements on their pass rush. I think that the Dolphins are a good fit. Patriots even. 25, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, linebacker, Notre Dame. My comp from is Isaiah Simmons, the talented linebacker from last year. And my best fit for him is the Raiders. I just like him in silver and black a lot. Other fits, Green Bay and New Orleans. 26, Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback, Florida State. My comp for him is Mackenzie Alexander. Best fit, Saints. Others, I'd say the Bills are a good fit. If you were to fall back, I think that the Bengals would be an interesting fit. I think Minnesota, although they're pretty deep at that position. 27, Najee Harris, running back, Alabama. My comp from is Mark Ingram. Best fit, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They need someone to replace James Conner, and they need that bully in the running game. And Najee Harris could be that. Miami, I think, is an interesting fit for him. And there are some other teams like in theory, would be pretty good for him, like the Jets even. 28, Taven Jenkins, offensive tackle, Oklahoma State. My comp from is Morgan Moses of Washington. Best fit, the Colts. They need to replace Anthony Costanzo, obviously. Other fits, Miami, Jets. 29, Rondell Moore, wide receiver, Purdue. My comp, Sterling Shepard. Best fit, Green Bay. Others, I think that if the Giants decide to go wide receiver in round 2 and offensive line in round 1 or elsewhere in round 1, I think that could be a fit. And another team, I think Rondell Moore would fit nicely with is Philadelphia if they were to go with a non-receiver in the first round. 30, Rashad Bateman, wideout, Minnesota. My comp, Mohamed Sanu. Best fit, the Ravens. I like the Ravens for Bateman. I think he fit well there. I think the Bengals would be interesting for him if they go Seal in round 1. And another team that I like for Bateman, if they don't go with Moore, maybe Green Bay. 31, Trevon Moehrig, safety, TCU. My comp, Kenny Vaccaro. Best fit, Jacksonville. Other fits, Jets. And I like the Rams as a possible fit for Moehrig. 32, Jason Away, defensive end, Penn State. My comp, Chandler Jones, best fit, Bills. And others, I think the Steelers would be a nice fit for Away. And I think that Kansas City would be a nice fit even though they traded away that pick. Even Tampa, too. 33, Jamin Davis, linebacker, Kentucky. Comp, Jordan Brooks from Texas Tech, the first-round pick from last year from Seattle. I think that the Saints are the best fit for Davis, although I kind of would like him on Tampa, too. I think that'd be a good fit, and same for KC and even the Ravens. 34, Gregory Rousseau, defensive end, Miami. Comp, Daniel Hunter. Best fit, the Buccaneers. Now I'm just going to do best fit team-wise for the rest of these because I am running low on time here for this segment. Number 35, Kadarius Toney, wideout, Florida. My comp, Sammy Watkins, best fit, the Jets. 36, Terrence Marshall, wideout, LSU. My comp, Tyrell Williams, best fit, the Chargers. I like the idea of him and Herbert together. Although Marshall and the Bengals would be fun, obviously reuniting with Joe Burrow. 37, Elijah Moore, wide receiver, Ole Miss. My comp, Corey Davis, best fit, the Titans. Moore replacing Corey Davis would be pretty neat. Obviously, Davis, the ex-Rebel as well. 38, Richie Grant, safety, UCF. My comp, Buda Baker. Best fit, the Cowboys. 39, Samuel Cosby, offensive tackle, Texas. Comp, Jake Matthews, best fit, the Bucks. 40, Zaven Collins, linebacker, Tulsa. Comp, Jamie Collins, best fit, Washington. Just like the idea of him in Washington. 41, Landon Dickerson, center, Alabama. Comp, Nick Martin, best fit, Steelers. The Steelers need help on the interior of their line. And some youth, too. 42, Pat Freiermuth, tight end, Penn State. Comp, Mike Gesicki, best fit, Texans. They just need a tight end. Let's just assume they keep, or Watson is somehow playing for the Texans in September. And even without Watson, they could use a tight end. Although I like the idea of him on the Cowboys, too. Freiermuth. 43, Wyatt Davis, interior offensive line, Ohio State. Comp, Mark Lewinsky. Best fit. I like him on the Raiders a lot. 44, Ronnie Perkins, defensive end, Oklahoma. Comp, Shaq Barrett, best fit. I like him on Baltimore. They need, obviously, pass rush help. 45, Carlos Basham, defensive end, Wake Forest. Comp, Marlon Davison, best fit, Rams. Obviously, they need help on the edges of the pass rush. 46, Javonte Williams, running back, North Carolina. Best fit, Dolphins. I just think that they need a home run hitter running back in that offense. And my comp for him is Kareem Hunt. 47, Kyle Trask, quarterback, Florida. Comp, former Bucks quarterback, Brad Johnson. Best fit, Denver. I like the idea of him on Denver. I like the idea of him on New England, too. Any of these young quarterbacks on New England. 48, Jabril Cox, linebacker, LSU. Comp, CJ Mosley, best fit, Vikings. They need some youth there. 49, Levi Onwuzurike, defensive tackle, Washington. Comp, Maurice Hurst. Best fit, Detroit. Detroit needs some anchors in their pass rush in the interior of their defense. And 50, Dyami Brown, wideout, North Carolina. Comp, Robbie Anderson. Best fit, Cardinals. They could use some youth and speed in the wide receiver position. Now I'm going to go through the odds for some draft props, courtesy of both FanDuel and DraftKings. I personally feel the DraftKings odds are a little bit better than FanDuel's when it comes to the NFL draft, but that's just me. Alrighty, so we're going to go through some of these. Picks 1 through 3. We don't have to go over that. Trevor Lawrence is minus 10,000. He's going to be 1. Same for Zach Wilson. We know he's going to be 2. Third overall pick. Mac Jones is minus 305. Trey Lance 3-1. Justin Fields 5-1. And it gets stupid. Justin Fields at 5-1's intriguing. It was actually 10-1 maybe like 24 hours ago. On FanDuel, I got this at plus 250, and then he was the favorite at one point, and it reverted back to Jones after that report came out. It's either going to be Jones or Lance. I still think there's a chance it's Fields, and they're using Jones and Lance as smoke screens. We've seen this with quarterbacks in drafts before, and I think there's a chance we see it again here. Top 5 pick, the favorites are Pitts, Jones, Chase. In terms of top 5 picks, obviously Wilson and Lawrence are off the board. Justin Fields at plus 125 is intriguing. The same for Lance at plus 125 and Sewell at plus 125. Rashawn Slater plus 250. Jalen Waddle 3-1. 13, 8-1. It gets wacky. I think that there could be value on Fields, Sewell, and Lance, and Jones and or Chase, I think, could potentially drop. Top 10 picks. Obviously, the 2 quarterbacks are locks. Mac Jones is minus 1,000. Penny Sewell minus 715. Fields minus 500. Same for Lance. Rashawn Slater minus 200. Patrick Surtain minus 167. Jalen Waddle minus 150. J.C. Horn's even money. Micah Parsons and Devontae Smith are plus 110. Kwity Paye is plus 120. Jalen Phillips plus 175. Christian Darrisaw plus 250. Elijah Vera Tucker 3-1. And it gets wacky. I think there's possible value on Devontae Smith at plus 110. I think that the Lions cannot be ruled out here for him, or even Denver if they decide to go weirdly with that route. I think it's more likely J.C. Horn goes to Denver than Devontae, and same for Micah Parsons. That's where I think Denver comes into play, not Devontae Smith, obviously. Top 32 pick, there are a lot of favored numbers. Obviously, the quarterbacks are off the board here. Kwity Paye is over 1,600. Jalen Phillips minus 715. Taven Jenkins and Greg Newsome each minus 560. Caleb Farley and Azeez Ojulari each minus 400. Zaven Collins, Trayvon Mulrig, Woodward, Elijah Moore each minus 335. Christian Barmore, Najee Harris are minus 305. Gregory Rousseau is minus 286. Jamin Davis minus 278. Rashad Bateman minus 250. Sam Cosmi, Travis Etienne minus 125. Kadarius Toney minus 121. Liam Eichenberg minus 110. Same with Alex Leatherwood, Asante Samuel Jr., and Jason Away. Landon Dickerson minus 106. Terrence Marshall, Joe Tyrone, each even money. Eric Stokes plus 110. Nick Bolton plus 130. Rondell Moore plus 130. Calvin Joseph plus 150. Same for Jalen Mayfield, Javonte Williams, and Ronnie Perkins. Joseph Osei plus 175. Pat Freiermuth, 275. Quinn Miners is 3-1. I think the one with the most value on the board for this one is Rondell Moore plus 130. I think that he should be a first-round pick based on his talent. And I think that he will end up being a first-round pick. So I like that bet a lot. Team's first pick. The New York Football Giants' first pick. Not every team's on here. There's a couple. We have Devontae Smith is a favorite, plus 250. Kwity Paye, 4-1. Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, Jalen Waddle, each 5-1. J.C. Horn, 7-1. Patrick Surtain, 8-1. Penei Sewell, 10-1. And it gets wacky. I think Sewell could be in play if he falls and the Giants could trade up to get him. That's the case for Sewell. Waddle at 5-1 is interesting. I think Parkins is interesting. Parsons, not Parkins. Slater at 5-1 I got a couple weeks ago and it's still at 5-1. Because that was like the hot name at the moment. Kwity Paye is getting some popular buzz with the Giants. I just don't see them going with Paye. If it's a pass rusher, it's got to be Parsons for them, in my opinion. He'd be a better fit, but I think Devontae Smith's probably the pick. But from a value perspective, I would lay some shekels on Slater, Parsons, and Waddle. And if it's any of those three, I bet on Slater, but if you ask me if it's one of those three guys, yeah, it might be Parsons, actually, because you're hearing some front seven buzz with the Giants. And I think Parsons would be a really good fit with the Giants. And I think that Joe Judge can help him fix his issues off the field. Philadelphia Eagles, J.C. Horn's the favorite, plus 250. Devontae Smith is plus 350. Same for Patrick Surtain. Jalen Waddle's 5-1. Micah Parsons, 7-1. Rashawn Slater, 9-1. Then there's some wacky ones. I saw Trey Lance to them mocked. That's at 25-1. That'd be wild. Them taking another North Dakota State quarterback in a 5-year span would be insanity to me. 6-year span now. I like Waddle at 5-1 for them. If he drops, I could see them taking him. And I like the value for Parsons as well, 7-1. I think those would be two fine values. Denver Broncos, I don't know why those are the three teams that they have, but that's the case here. Rashawn Slater is the favorite for Denver at 3-1. Michael Parsons is 4-1. Justin Fields, J.C. Horn, and Trey Lance, and Penei Sewell are each 6-1. Patrick Surtain is 7-1. Zaven Collins, 8-1. I don't like that one at all. Mac Jones, 10-1 is interesting. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, 10-1. I like J.C. Horn at 6-1 for Denver. Obviously, they picked up Teddy Bridgewater today, and there's talks that they might not even go quarterback or wait for a later round to go quarterback. But if it's not a quarterback, I could see it being J.C. Horn. So I like that call at 6-1 as they address the secondary. Position of team's first pick. All right, we talked about the Giants. Wide receiver is the favorite, plus 160. Offensive lineman 3-1. Defensive lineman 4-1. Corners 5-1. So is linebacker. Tight end 25-1. That's if they trade up for Pitts, which I don't see happening. I think the interesting one is linebacker at 5-1. I think that Parsons could be in play for them. The lineman one, I just think that everyone saw some mocks give them Kwity Paye from Michigan, and people are betting on it. That's why these lines moves. It's not because of inside information. It's because of mock drafts that the bettors look at. It's not their own inside information. It's the inside information of the people creating mock drafts. So, I think linebacker 5-1 is interesting for the New York Football Giants. Philadelphia Eagles. The cornerback is the big favorite, plus 150. Wide receivers, plus 170. Offensive lineman, 6-1. Defensive lineman, 10-1. Quarterback, 10-1. Linebacker, 11-1. I think that the value play could be on defensive linemen at 10-1. I saw some people give them Kwity Paye in their own mock draft, so I think that's a good one. for Philadelphia from a value perspective. 6-1 for offensive linemen would be nice too. Denver, I talked about them potentially getting a corners 4-1 right now. Offensive linemen's 2-1. Linebacker and quarterback each plus 250. Defensive lineman and wide route 20-1. But cornerback would be interesting. Obviously Horn and Surtain. So I think there could be potential value on cornerback for 4-1 for Denver. Buffalo, running back's the favorite at 2-1. Corners plus 325. Defensive lineman 4-1. Linebacker 6-1. Offensive lineman 7-1. Wide receiver 7-1. And it gets wacky. Wide receiver I think is interesting for Buffalo. Emmanuel Sanders and John Brown are guys that are aging a little bit, so I could see them taking a chance on like Rondale Moore or somebody like that. So wide receiver 7-1 for the Bills, not bad. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, defensive lineman 2-1, offensive lineman plus 450, running back plus 550, corner 6-1, linebacker 6-1, wide out 7-1, safety 9-1. Then it gets wacky. I think safety is the best value 9-1. I saw some people mock Richie Grant or Trayvon Moehrig to Tampa. And I think that could be a option at 9-1. A wide receiver at 7-1 is interesting as well. An offense at plus 133 for Tampa, I think, has potential value as well. Cincinnati, wide receivers, a heavy favorite of minus 225. Offensive lineman plus 175. Tight end 6-1. Cornerback 33-1. It's wacky. Tight end at 6-1 has value, and the case for it is easy. Pitts falls to them because Atlanta either A, takes a quarterback, or B, trades down, and somebody trades up and takes Trey Lance, Mac Jones, or Justin Fields, whichever one is not a San Francisco 49er. So that's the case for tight end at 6-1 for the Bengals. Seattle. Cornerback plus 225, offensive lineman 3-1, defensive lineman 6-1, linebacker 8-1, wide receiver 8-1, and it gets wacky. One that I think could be in play here for Seattle is defensive line at 6-1. I don't love their pass rush, although they have Carlos Dunlap, but I could see them taking a pass rusher or a linebacker at 8-1. I think that's interesting too. Cleveland Browns. Defensive lineman plus 250, linebacker plus 250, corners 275, wideouts plus 450, offensive lineman 8-1, safety 14-1, tight end 41. Gets wacky there. This is a tough one. I think these lines are right. I think it's either going to be a linebacker or a defensive lineman. Let's say they trade back or something. Offensive line at 8-1 I think is interesting if they trade back and they could pick for depth. Or they could get a wide receiver plus 450 or even a corner. Thought about that situation. But 8-1 from a value perspective I like. Even though they have a deep offensive line, maybe they could pick for depth. I'm not saying they're going to pick a lineman. But it's not crazy. The Minnesota Vikings, offensive lineman's plus 110, defensive lineman's plus 175, corners 5-1, wide receiver 14-1, linebacker 18-1, safety 20-1. It's going to be a lineman, but it just depends on what side of the ball. But let's say thinks it's wacky, they trade back. Corner at 5-1, that's where that becomes interesting. Maybe they trade back, somebody trades up, they try to leapfrog the Patriots for a player or something. So you never know. Detroit. Wide receiver, plus 140. Offensive lineman, 3-1. Quarterback, 4-1. Cornerback, 7-1. Linebacker, 7-1. Defensive lineman, 20-1. I don't like the defensive lineman at the top of the first round, but that's a valuable play, 20-1. The case for that is that they trade back with New England. Maybe they take Christian Barmore, Kwity Paye, or somebody like that. So I like defensive lineman 20-1 for the Lions' first pick. That could be the case if they trade back. The Jacksonville Jaguars, second pick, obviously, because we all know where they're going first. Defensive lineman and offensive lineman and safety, each 4-1. Wide receiver plus 450. Tight end 6-1. Corner 7-1. Running back 7-1. Linebacker 12-1. This is a tough one. But maybe they trade back and maybe a corner's in play for 7-1. I could see that. So from a value perspective, corner I like for them. Houston. That's interesting. So their favorites are cornerback, offensive lineman, wide receiver, each 4-1. Defensive lineman's 5-1. Quarterback 6-1. Linebacker 8-1. Safety 10-1. Tight end 11-1. Running back 20-1. I think a quarterback's in play at 6-1. I mean, could they go Kyle Trask or Davis Mills with that pick? Not crazy to think about. So why not? 6-1 quarterback. Obviously not saying that these are going to be it, but I'm just making picks from a perspective of value. The Baltimore Ravens, wide receiver 2-1, linebacker plus 350, defensive lineman 4-1, offensive lineman plus 450, corner 7-1, safety 7-1. Rest is wacky. I actually took a flyer with the Ravens first pick position a couple days ago, and I went with defensive lineman at plus 450. Now that's 4-1. Offensive lineman plus 450 is actually more valuable now because the defensive lineman dropped. So offensive lineman plus 450. Could be Samuel Cosby. Could be one of those Alabama players. Plus 450 offensive lineman for the Ravens. Colts, first drafted player position. Offensive line plus 130. Defensive line 2-1. Corner 6-1. Wide out 6-1. Linebacker 10-1. Safety 22-1. Maybe they trade back and they don't like guys that are in play for them if they trade back. This brings up wide receiver at 6-1. T.Y. Hilton, 1-year deal. Michael Pittman hasn't proven to be a top flight guy, so maybe they get somebody to complement those guys. So maybe they trade back and take a wide receiver. 6-1, I think is good value. Green Bay Packers. Wide receiver plus 150, offensive lineman plus 250, corner 4-1, defensive lineman 7-1, linebacker 7-1, safety 18-1, rest gets wacky. The value play here, I think, would be... Ooh, this is a tough one. Maybe they trade back and they end up with a linebacker that falls or a defensive lineman that falls. But I think that linebackers, they're more pressing needs, so 7-1. Maybe they remain put and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah falls to them. So maybe 7-1 for linebacker for Green Bay. And defense, by the way, is plus 120 for position. For playing position. Not exact, obviously. Los Angeles Chargers. The heavy favorite is offensive lineman at minus 182. Corners 4-1. Wide receiver plus 550. Defensive end 10-1 or lineman. Linebacker 14-1. Safety 25-1. The pick here from a value perspective is wide receiver at plus 550. If Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith falls to them, I could see them taking them. Or I could see a world where they trade up for one of them if they miss out on Sewell. Or maybe they trade back. And maybe they end up with, like, Minnesota's Rashad Bateman or something like that. So wide receiver plus 550, I think, is interesting. Atlanta Falcons. Tight ends, a big favorite, minus 305. Quarterbacks 3-1. Wide receiver 10-1. Offensive lineman 16-1. Corner 25-1. Defensive lineman 50-1. The trade back talk is lingering is the word I'm going to use. It's lingering. But the question is, what position will they go for? Let's say Denver. No, I don't like that. Maybe New England trades up for a quarterback in that spot. Maybe. We'll see. But what position do they go if, say, they're at 15? That opens up Pandora's box. So the valuable play for the Atlanta, I'd say his offensive line at 16-1. Maybe trade back. Or maybe Denver does trade up and maybe Sewell or Rashawn Slater is sitting there for him. So that wouldn't be all that surprising. 16-1 Atlanta offensive line. New England, quarterback's the favorite, plus 125. Linebackers 3-1. Wideout 4-1. Corner 6-1. Defensive lineman 12-1. Offensive lineman 14-1. Let's say they pass on a quarterback. I think it's unlikely, but you never know. I think that if they're trying to go for it, maybe Devontae or Waddle falls back. Maybe they trade back and take somebody. So 4-1 for wide receiver I think is interesting. Corner I think is interesting at 6-1 as well. Maybe they take Newsome before Arizona can or something like that. So let's go corner at 6-1 for the value play for New England. Chicago, first player drafted, offensive line plus 180, wideout plus 275, corner plus 325, quarterback 4-1, D lineman 16-1, linebacker 18-1, running back 25-1, safety 41. I got Bears first position pick cornerback at plus 350. That is now plus 325. But the value play might be a quarterback at 4-1. Maybe Trey Lance falls to them at 20. Maybe they trade up for Trey Lance. Maybe they trade up for Mac Jones or Justin Fields. So quarterback 4-1, I think is the value play for the Chicago Bears. Although defense at plus 245 for inside the balls first is interesting too, because then you're banking on them drafting like a Newsome or something like that. The Dallas Cowboys first player. Cornerback, minus 250. Offensive line, 5-1. Defensive line, 7-1. Linebacker, 10-1. Tight end, 11-1. That's if you think that they may trade up and get Pitts. I definitely think offensive line, 5-1 is the most valuable play. A lot of people are penciling in Rashawn Slater for them at the last minute here. And offense plus 295, I think, is really valuable as well. And I think offense for them was plus 230 last year, and they wound up taking CeeDee Lamb. So I think that is really, really a valuable play for the Cowboys. Offensive line 5-1, then address the secondary in the later rounds. Maybe take Richie Grant out of UCF or something like that in one of the later rounds. The New Orleans Saints. Cornerback's the favorite at 2-1. Defensive line's 350. So is wide receiver. Linebacker 6-1. Offensive line 10-1. Quarterback and safety also 10-1. I think the play here is linebacker at 6-1. They need some youth in that unit. Demario Davis aging. Alex Anzalone's inconsistent. So linebacker 6-1. Maybe it's Owusu Amaroa from Notre Dame. Maybe it's a kid from Kentucky, Jamin Davis. So 6-1 for linebacker. The Tennessee Titans. Cornerbacks plus 210, wideout plus 255, offensive line 4-1, defensive line plus 550, linebacker 6-1, safety 8-1. Then it gets weird. I think defensive lineman at 550 is the play. They need some help there. Bud Dupree can't do it alone. Although linebacker 6-1 is good too, but defensive lineman plus 550 I think is the value play for the Tennessee Titans. The Washington Professional Football Team. Linebacker is the favorite at plus 175. Offensive line's the co-favorite with that. Quarterback plus 450, wide receiver 9-1. Corners 12-1, safeties 13-1. I'm going to go wide out at 9-1. I think they need somebody else to go with Terry McLaurin. Maybe they move up to try to get one of those guys that their division rival Eagles and Giants are eyeing. Maybe they trade back and take Rondell Moore or Rashad Bateman. Elijah Moore's in play as well. So wide receiver 9-1 for me is it for the Washington Professional Football Team in terms of valuable. The Los Angeles Rams first position player. Offensive line's 220, corners plus 450, linebackers plus 450, defensive line 5-1, wideout 6-1, tight end 9-1, safety 11-1, running back 16-1. This is a tough one. Linebacker plus 450, that unit I think is a little bit aging. So linebacker plus 450 I think could have some value. Maybe somebody falls to them that's decent. The Miami Dolphins. Wide receivers a big favorite at minus 150, tight ends plus 275. Offensive line 3-1. Defensive line 30-1. Linebacker 30-1. Corner 33-1. Same for quarterback. Running backs 50-1. Safety 6-1. I think offensive line 3-1 is valuable. They traded Eric Flowers away yesterday, so maybe they're eyeing Penny Sewell with the 6th pick. So 3-1 offensive lineman I think is pretty good for Miami. Carolina Panthers. Offensive line is plus 150. Quarterback 2-1. Cornerback 3-1. Wide receiver 11-1. Linebacker 12-1. Tight end 16-1. Defensive lineman 25-1. I think defense in total plus 215 is a great value play. But I really like wide receiver at 11-1 from a value perspective. Sam Darnold needs weapons, not just Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. So I could see a world where they go wide receiver. So 11-1 wide receiver I think is super duper valuable. Although I think defense plus 215 I think would be wiser because I think a corner is more likely in play than a wide receiver. Although I like both plays. Kansas City. Wide receiver 2-1, offensive line plus 350, corners 4-1, defensive lineman's 5-1, linebacker 5-1, safety 16-1, tight end 16-1. I like defense at just above even money in general here. But defensive lineman 5-1, they need another pass rusher to go with Chris Jones, so I'm going with defensive line 5-1. Although linebacker 5-1 is also interesting. Las Vegas Raiders. Offensive line plus 180, linebacker plus 225, defensive line plus 450, corner 7-1. Quarterback 10-1, safety 10-1, wide receiver 16-1. Then it gets weird. I like the call for safety at 10-1. Trayvon Moehrig to the Raiders is not crazy at 17. So I'm going to say safety 10-1 for the Raiders. San Francisco, second drafted player because we all know they're taking a quarterback. Offensive line 2-1, corner plus 250, linebacker 5-1, wide receiver 7-1, defensive line 8-1, safety 11-1, running back 12-1. I think the value plays linebacker 5-1. If somebody falls to them in the second round, I could see them snagging. So I'm going to say linebacker 5-1 for their second pick. Second drafted player. New York Jets. Second drafted player because we all know their first pick's going to be a quarterback. Cornerback plus 220. Offensive line 4-1. Running back was also 4-1. Defensive line 5-1. Linebacker 7-1. Wide receiver 8-1. Safety 14-1. Safety's pretty good because I think Trayvon Moehrig could be playing for them too. But I think he could very well be gone by then. So I'm going to say defensive line at 5-1. I think Azeez Ojulari from Georgia could be in play for them. Maybe Kwity Paye or Jalen Phillips falls to them. So defensive lineman 5-1 for the second drafted player by the Jets. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Running back is a minus 125 favorite. Offensive line is plus 250. Cornerbacks plus 550. Linebacker 14-1. Defensive line 20-1. Quarterback 25-1. Wideout 25-1. Defensive line at 20-1 I think might be the best bet of the entire position of teams' first and second picks, respectively. Pittsburgh Steelers defensive line 20-1. I think they need somebody else to go with T.J. Watt. Jason Away, I think, would be a good fit. Maybe they go Jalen Phillips or Azeez Ojulari. So 20-1 defensive lineman for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Arizona Cardinals, last but not least. Cornerback and wide receiver each tied for 2-1. Linebacker 5-1. Same with running back, which is weird. Offensive line 7-1. Defensive line 11-1. I took Cardinals offensive line plus 450, but shot up to 7-1. I don't get it. They need protection for Kyler Murray. They just lost Marcus Gilbert to retirement, so 7-1 might be the second best play I've seen from a position standpoint to a team's first pick. So offensive line 7-1 for the Arizona Cardinals. Team to draft player. This is just Justin Fields and Trey Lance. Patriots 2-1. Panthers 3-1. This is Fields' odds. Falcons 5-1. Weird. 49ers 5-1. Denver 6-1. Detroit 6-1. Washington 8-1. Bears 10-1. I like the 49ers 5-1. I keep saying it. I think there's a chance that this is a smokescreen. And then Trey Lance. The 49ers are also favored at 3-1 here. Panthers are 4-1. Patriots 4-1. Denver 6-1. Atlanta 7-1. Detroit 7-1. Washington 7-1. Bears 8-1. Eagles 12-1. Raiders 16-1. Bears at 8-1 is interesting. I think that they're a trade-up candidate that nobody's talking about. And I think that Lance can potentially follow them. So Bears 8-1, why not? Exact outcomes of picks 3, 4, and 5. Jones Pitts Chase is the favorite at 2-1. Jones Pitts Sewell plus 350. Jones Fields Chase 550. Lance Pitts Chase 650. Jones Lance Chase 7-1. Jones Fields Sewell 9-1. Jones Lance Sewell 10-1. Lance Pitts Sewell 10-1. Fields Pitts Chase 11-1. Fields Pitts Sewell 12-1. Jones Fields Pitts 14-1. Same with Lance Fields Chase. Jones Lance Pitts 17-1. 22-1 Lance Fields Sewell. 25-1 Fields Lance Chase. Lance Jones Chase is 28-1. Lance Fields Pitts is 33-1. Fields Jones Chase is 40-1. This gets weird. So I think the interesting one here is 40-1 Fields Jones Chase. It proves that the Mac Jones, Trey Lance to San Francisco is a smokescreen. Fields goes third. New England trades up to fourth to get their man Mac Jones. Cincinnati takes Burrow's boy Chase. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but 40-1, why not? Why not take a chance on a long shot like that? All right, pick by position. First running back drafted. Najee Harris is minus 225. ETN's plus 150. Javonte Williams 5-1. Trey Sermon 40-1. Chuba Hubbard 50-1. Same with Michael Carter and Kenneth Gainwell. And then Jarrett Peterson and Kylan Hill are each 100-1. I'm going to go with the value play. Javonte Williams at 5-1. There's some buzz that he might go late in the first round ahead of ETN and Harris. So Williams 5-1 for first running back drafted from a value perspective. Wide receiver. First wide receiver drafted. Jamar Chase is a minus 1,000 favorite. Jalen Waddle 6-1. Devontae Smith 10-1. Rashad Bateman 50-1, and it gets weird. Waddle, I think, is the best play at 6-1 here. The case for that is that Miami really likes him. Tua Tagovailoa really likes him. The case is that Atlanta takes a quarterback, or trades down. Somebody moves up for the quarterback, and then Cincinnati takes Pitts instead of Chase. Then it comes down to Chase versus Waddle. Miami goes Waddle, so that's the case 6-1 for Jalen Waddle. Offensive line. Penei Sewell's minus 500. Rashad Slater plus 250. And it gets weird with Darisaw and Vera Tucker at each 33-1. Slater plus 250. The case for is that people like his versatility skill set more than Sewell's for whatever reason. So Slater plus 250. Not saying it's going to happen, but I think that could be valuable. Safety. Trevon Moehrig minus 400. Javon Hollins 4-1. Richie Grant's 5-1. Caden Stearns 33-1. Andre Cisco 40-1. I think Grant at 5-1 is the more valuable play. I'd say nobody picks Moehrig Woodward in the first round. Then the Bucks come up at 32. They put the card in. It's Richie Grant. That's all it has to take. Defensive line. Quiddy pays the favorite minus 125. Jalen Phillips is plus 140. Christian Barmore 4-1. Gregory Rousseau 9-1. That gets weird. The case for Barmore. Minnesota takes him at 14. Quiddy pay continues to drop. Phillips continues to drop. So I could see Barmore going to Minnesota or even New England at 14 or 15, respectively. Cornerback. Patrick Surtain is minus 100. J.C. Horn plus 125. And then it gets weird with Farley, 25-1. Newsome, 33-1. Horn plus 125, I think, is interesting. I've seen some mocks have Horn go ahead of Surtain, so Horn at plus 125, interesting. Although there was better number on that not long ago. Linebacker, Micah Parsons is the heavy favorite at minus 400. Azeez Ojulari is considered a linebacker, actually. He's 6-1. Owusu Koromoa, 7-1. Zaven Collins, 10-1. Let's say Parsons drops. I think Ojulari, could be in play. And same for Owusu Koromoa. I think Owusu Koromoa more so than Ojulari. 7-1. I could see the Raiders taking him at 17. So that's the case. And then Micah Parsons could potentially still be on the board. Non-quarterback. Kyle Pitts is the heavy favorite, minus 305. Jamar Chase is 3-1. Penei Sewell 7-1. Rashawn Slater, 14-1. Chase could have value if the top 4 are quarterbacks and it comes down to Pitts versus Chase, and then Cincinnati goes with Chase. Defense. Patrick Surtain's the favorite at plus 100, so even money. J.C. Horn's 2-1. Micah Parsons plus 375. Kwity Paye 10-1. Jalen Phillips 12-1. Then it gets weird. Kwity Paye could have some value at 10-1. The case is all the quarterbacks, and then it comes wide receivers. And maybe the Giants take him 11. Or even the Giants go out O-line or trade out. And if Paye goes maybe 12 to Philly. Although I like Parsons at plus 375 as well. So the value play, I think Parsons plus 375, I think is the best value. Because I think he's the best defensive player in this entire draft. Special teams. Max Duffy 2-1. Evan McPherson 2-1. Jose Borelgis 3-1. James Smith 4-1. Thomas Fletcher 20-1. Drew Chrisman 25-1. Same with Presley Harvin, Riley Patterson, and Turner Bernard is 33-1. Maybe James Smith at 4-1 potentially. So that'd be the one, if anything. Player draft positions over unders. That's also very interesting. First round totals in terms of positions as well. Player to be drafted first. And some random props like a quarterback to be selected with each of the first 4 picks. The guess is minus 125. I think that is absurd. Because I still think that the Falcons have a shot at taking Pitts. And I think the trade-up stuff could be buzz. All right, college specials. Total Big 12 players drafted in the first round. Over, unders 2.5. Overs even money. Unders minus 265. Over 2-1 I like. You have Mulrig, the safety. You have Jenkins, the lineman. And you also could potentially have Cosme from Texas. So over 2.5 and 2-1, I like it. The same number, 2.5, is for the Pac-12 as well. The overs plus 265, though, and the unders minus 360. So you have Penei Sewell out of Oregon. Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. I don't see anybody trading back up to get like a Davis Mills. So obviously those are the 2 obvious ones. I just mentioned the 2 linemen. There's a lineman from Stanford, but I don't think he'll go in the first round. So I would pass on that. Alabama players, 5.5 overs minus 250, others plus 190. So you got Jones, Barmore, Surtain, the 2 wide receivers, and the 2 linemen. If it was 6.5, I would bet the over. ACC players drafted, 5.5 is the number, overs plus 106, unders minus 134. Trevor Lawrence, the 2 Virginia Tech players. Notre Dame, the linebacker. Notre Dame's ACC, I count that. There's some other ones that potentially could happen. Travis Etienne, that'd be 5. And then there's a couple other ones that I think could sneak in the first round as well that are ACC players, maybe Javonte Williams. So I think the over is interesting at plus 106. Big Ten, the over under 6.5 overs, even money, unders minus 125. Micah Parsons, Justin Fields, Kwity Paye, maybe Wyatt Davis. There's some other ones. Rashad Bateman, Minnesota. Rondell Moore, Purdue. That's 6 right there. And that would mean, in theory, under. Maybe there's another one I'm not thinking of that could go in the first round. SEC is the fun one. 12.5 overs plus 133, unders minus 167. So you have the 7 Alabama players I just rattled off. And Najee Harris, so you can't forget about him. So that's 8. You have Jamar Chase. Kyle Pitts. That brings you to 10. J.C. Horn, that's 11. Azeez Ojulari, that's 12. And maybe Terrence Marshall sneaks in, so there's your 13 potential. And then you have the draft specials for Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, and Davis Mills. So, and the last one I want to do is the totals for positions. Over under a half for safeties. Overs minus 177. Unders plus 140. So you're banking on no safeties in the first round there. Pass. Running backs. Over under 1.5. Overs plus 140. Unders minus 177. The case for the over is Najee Harris and Travis Etienne, or Najee Harris and Javonte Williams, or Williams and Etienne. So the over is interesting, but I wouldn't pull the trigger. Tight ends drafted in the first round. You're banking on Pitts and then the Penn State kid. So that's your over 1.5 for you. The under's minus 670, so I'm staying away. Linebackers over under 4.5, overs plus 140, unders minus 177. So you have Parsons, you got Ojulari, you have the Notre Dame kid. You have Javen Davis. That's another SEC player. So that is another case. Instead of Terrence Marshall, you can put him in for your over for SEC players. Zaven Collins, maybe, as well. So there's 5 for linebackers. So there's your case for over, but I wouldn't pull the trigger. Cornerbacks over under 4.5, overs minus 134, unders plus 108. I think that obviously the top 2 guys, and then you have Farley, and you also have Newsome. Oh, that's another Big Ten player I forgot about. And Slater. The Big Ten's going over. Oh my goodness, I forgot about the 2 Northwestern guys. So the 6.5 is even money. So let's go back to that for a second. So you have Fields, Parsons, Kwity Paye, the 2 Northwestern guys. Rondell Moore out of Purdue. So that's 6. And then Jason Oweh. So there's 7. So I'm going over on the Big Ten. I just decided that right now. And I think the wide receiver, I think that's over 4.5 is minus 335, unders plus 250. I don't think the under's valuable. I think there's going to be a lot of receivers in the first round. And then also Elijah Moore, talking about SEC players. Defensive lineman over under 4.5, overs plus 110, unders minus 137. Over plus 110, so you would have, in theory here, Barmore. You would have Kwity Paye, Jalen Phillips, Gregory Rousseau. So I really don't like that over for defensive linemen on the bench. Quarterbacks overs 4-1, unders minus 590 for over 5.5. I think it's just going to be those 5. Offensive linemen over under 6.5, overs plus 101, unders minus 125. So you have Sewell, you have Slater, you have Darisaw, you have Vera Tucker, you have also Cosme potentially. You have Tevin Jenkins, and then the Alabama guy. So that's 8 that I think could go in the first round. So I would take a shot at the over at plus 101. Offensive players to be drafted in the first round. Overs minus 125, unders plus 101. Or I'm sorry, that's defensive players. So the over's favored to the under. So I think that obviously the 2 corners, Micah Parsons, Kwity Paye, Christian Barmore, Jalen Phillips, Newsome, Farley, Moehrig. I could see an under playing out at plus 101 because a lot of people I think are going to go for wide receivers and potentially running backs as well. So I think the under is very valuable. And offensive players drafted in the first round, I think the over is valuable at plus 101, so that I think would work as well. You have the 5 quarterbacks. You have the 2 linemen, the big 3 wide receivers, and I think potentially 2 other wide receivers. And then you have the other 2 really good offensive linemen. You have Kyle Pitts, so that's 15. Maybe 1 running back. And maybe 2 or 3 more wide receivers. And then maybe Cosme or one of the Alabama linemen. So I think the over 18.5 at plus 101 is very good as well. So I'm going to actually bet over and under for offense and defense respectively. Defense under 13.5 at plus 101 and over 18.5 at plus 101 for offensive players to be drafted. Alrighty, now we're going to do the last part of this big podcast, and that is the bold predictions for every team. If I get somebody's right, I'll actually be pretty happy. So, without further ado, here we go. The Arizona Cardinals will take Ronnie Perkins on day 2. Kyler Murray play here. I could see them picking Kyler Murray's old teammate here, Perkins, in the second or third round. The Atlanta Falcons will draft Kellen Mond on day 3 of the NFL draft. The Baltimore Ravens trade 26 plus a second, whether it's this year or next year, to move up to 18 as they pick Miami's Jalen Phillips to help replace Yannick Ngakoue and Matt Judon. The Buffalo Bills will select North Dakota State offensive tackle Dylan Radnuns on day number 2. This just feels like a Bills pick to me for whatever reason. The Carolina Panthers take a wide receiver on day 3 of the draft, and that will be South Dakota State's Cade Johnson. The Chicago Bears will draft Kyle Trask on day number 2 as the big guns go off the board very early and the Bears won't have a shot at them. The Cincinnati Bengals will draft Terrence Marshall on day 2 of the draft. The case is that they do the right thing and take Sewell, and they end up going with the other former teammate of Burrow and Marshall. The Cleveland Browns will take Christian Barmore in round 1, whether it's staying put at 26 or trading up or down. The Dallas Cowboys will select Richie Grant on day 2 of the draft. They need help at the safety position. I could see that very, very much so. The Denver Broncos, despite trading for Teddy Bridgewater, will take Trey Lance, whether that's at number 9 or a trade up. Now I'm going to say it's at 9. The Detroit Lions trade down, and they will take Elijah Vera Tucker. You'll find out eventually who they trade with. The Green Bay Packers take a wide receiver in the first round, and I'm going to say it is Purdue's Rondell Moore. The Houston Texans will take Davis Mills in the 3rd round, maybe even the 2nd round, but they need a quarterback for the future because Deshaun Watson won't be there for long. The Indianapolis Colts take Tevin Jenkins at 21. The case here is that they obviously need to replace Anthony Costanzo. Jacksonville takes a wide receiver on day 3, and that will be Trevor Lawrence's former teammate, Amari Rodgers. The Kansas City Chiefs take Joe Tyrone on day 2 to help address their pass rush. The Los Angeles Chargers will take Tommy Tremble on day 2 to help replace Hunter Henry. The Los Angeles Rams will trade back in the 2nd round because of their lack of picks. The Las Vegas Raiders will select Wyatt Davis in the 2nd round to help the interior of their offensive line. The Miami Dolphins will take Jason Oweh in the 1st round after trading down. The Minnesota Vikings take offensive lineman Liam Eichenberg on day 2 out of Notre Dame. The New England Patriots will trade up to 7 from the Detroit as they give the Lions their 2022 first and 21 second, and will select Mac Jones, the guy that I think Belichick wants. Obviously, the Sabintides are tremendous there. The New Orleans Saints will take Florida State standout Asante Samuel Jr. in the 1st round. The New York Football Giants, after much speculation and thought that they might go with a defensive player at the 11th pick, they'll stay put and select the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Smith, as the DraftKings odds suggest. The New York Football Jets will take Travis Etienne in the 2nd round to help out Zach Wilson. The Philadelphia Eagles will select the corner on day 2, and that will be Georgia's Eric Stokes. The Pittsburgh Steelers will select Najee Harris in the first round as they go for one last hurrah with Ben Roethlisberger. The San Francisco 49ers, after everybody thinking it's going to be Mac Jones or Trey Lance, it will end up being Justin Fields. The Seattle Seahawks trade back multiple times due to only having 3 picks in this entire draft. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will draft Gregory Rousseau in the first round. The Tennessee Titans will draft Azeez Ojulari in the first round to pair up with Bud Dupree. And last but not least, the Washington Professional Football Team will select Micah Parsons at 19 after he falls to them. All right, so there you have it for the bowl predictions for every team. Some miscellaneous stuff. I think Roger Goodell will be hearing boos, whether they'll be from virtual fans or fans that are there in person. I think that a big-time player will fall into the second round due to health concerns, whether it's Caleb Farley, Micah Parsons. I doubt that, but maybe. You never know. But somebody that is a lock first rounder will fall to the second round. I think it's going to be Caleb Farley, potentially. And for trades in the first round, I think there are going to be 5. I think that New England trades up. I think that the Ravens could trade up. I think that somebody could trade back into the first round, into the Buffalo spot. Maybe the Jets trade back into the first round or something like that. And maybe 2 unexpected surprises that we don't see coming, like Atlanta trades back. Maybe New England trades back if they don't trade up. Maybe the Dolphins trade back again. Maybe the Giants trade back, but maybe somebody trades back. You never know. All right, so there you have it for my mega 2021 NFL Draft preview and predictions show. And I'll look back on this sooner rather than later and look back and see how I did. As I'll see how I did with all these picks. I'll look back on this, obviously. And I hope you guys have a fun time watching the draft.